In a dark secluded room, Clebius was seen feeling anxious and depressed at the moment. He cursed, there were many other people who could do this, but why should he? He could only blame his unlucky life. Looking at the paper containing a message in front of him, Clebius once again asked, "Why me?" The paper contained a dual request addressed to him. No wonder why Clebius could feel so anxious and depressed. Because he was a timid person, it was not only Clebius who had such an experience. When Zix was reading a book in the library, a junior suddenly approached him and invited him to a duel. Zix's face still looked very flat hearing that. His gaze didn't even turn away from his book though. He then asked, "Why?" The junior replied, "Because as your junior, I want to get guidance from you senior." Zix was silent for a moment hearing that. He then closed his book and told him to keep those cliché reasons. When Zix looked at him, the junior smiled slightly and said that he wanted to prove his ability. Hearing that, Zix then asked him, "You have already achieved the top rank in your year, right?" But the junior didn't seem to feel proud of it at all. He said that it was only the first year top rank. There were still many things he had to go through. There was senior Janica, the third year top ranked student, and senior Drake, the greatest person in the combat faculty. There was even senior Ed from the magic faculty who was somehow famous among the first year students. He said that he planned to face them all. Of course, everything was in order, so he made the first challenge to senior Clebius, the second-year combat faculty's top-ranked student, but it seems that he avoided his challenge. No, he seems to have indeed avoided him. He was a bit disappointed about that. Anyway, after he defeated senior Clebius, the second-year combat faculty's top-ranked student, he said that next he planned to challenge Elvira, the alchemy faculty's top-ranked student. After that, he would challenge him, so today he came to tell him early. Hearing that, Zix then confusedly asked, "Why am I next? I'm not even top-ranked." Hearing that, the junior then explained, "That person, the real second-year top-ranked, has dropped out of the competition, which means, now you are the second-year top-ranked student." He seems to be still a bit self-conscious about his ability. Zix smiled a little at his words. He liked his arrogance. He then concluded, "So, you are planning to beat me, then target Janica and Ed too, right?" Zix then gave him a piece of advice. "In Sylvania, you need to know that you are not always right." Hearing that, the junior said that he also didn't think he could beat him that easily. While holding his shoulders, Zix said that that was not what he meant. He then advised him, "Janica and Ed are far beyond your reach. You won't even be able to pass me. It seems that you have misunderstood. You will lose first in Clebius. If you want to beat me, then face the reality first." He then felt annoyed hearing that. When Zix had just come out of the library and was about to walk away, someone suddenly called him. That person was Ed. Ed thanked him for organizing the Soul Library well. After that, Zix then told his experience of being challenged by a junior earlier. The junior was named Wade. Hearing that name, Ed knew that it was a student who became the top rank in the first year. Zix explained. He was a new student who challenged all the talented students in this academy. From what I heard, it seems that he is also interested in fighting you. Ed was pensive for a moment hearing that. This was somewhat different from what he knew. To his knowledge, this challenge of Wade Kellamore lasted from Act 3, Chapter 3 to Chapter 5. Wade was born with a natural talent in swordsmanship as the son of the commander of the Northern Frontier Legion. Wade achieved the first-year top rank with his extraordinary strength. Not satisfied with just being the first-year top rank, Wade began to challenge the famous students in the academy and the top-ranked students one by one, and managed to defeat them. In the end, Zix was also defeated by him. By then, Zix was already quite exhausted and was at a disadvantage. It was a tough and brutal fight, but defeat is still defeat. But Wade was still not satisfied with just defeating Zix. His rampage of challenges seemed unstoppable. Until finally he was defeated by Taylor, who had been improving for a year at the academy. Zix then asked him, "There is a welcoming ceremony for new students tonight, do you want to see him?" But Ed replied no, he wouldn't go. He already had plans tonight. Ed wasn't really interested, because he had seen Wade's face quite often. He thanked him for the news earlier. He also told Zix to be careful too. Zix always thought that Ed was not the type of person who cared about things like this. But seeing the academy so lively seemed to give him a little energy. The fresh air that was typical of the new semester made his steps feel lighter. When Ed had walked away, Zix then finally remembered something. He felt that he should have mentioned it earlier too, because they were both in the same year, with a similar class schedule. He saw her quite often. The person Zix was referring to was Phenia. in the last few meetings, Zix was aware that Phinia looked very tired, but every time she talked to someone. And when the topic of Ed came up, like when she heard Wade saying that he was planning to challenge Ed, Phinia always seemed to be listening carefully. To prove his guess, Zix once deliberately mentioned Ed's name when he was sitting behind Phinia. It caused a reaction from her. It was obvious that she was very interested in this, but Zix didn't feel that telling him about this was an urgent matter, not that today was the only chance. Zix thinks it shouldn't be a problem. He decided to investigate further and tell him next time. The sky looked very clear today with the sun clearly visible in the sky. The cold from the piercing winter chill was already a thing of the past. The northern forest came back to life when it finally entered spring. Lucy was seen fast asleep on top of Ed's cabin at this time. The warm sunlight makes her sleep more comfortable. Not only Lucy, Ed and Janica are also there. They are in the spirit magic teaching session this time. In the middle of the teaching session, Janica then said to him, Ed's growth rate is very bombastic, and his resonance continues to increase steadily. Through his contract with Marilda, now he should be able to make a contract with an intermediate level spirit. If she said he grew this much in just a year, most people wouldn't believe her. Janica's nature looks a little different this time. She looks more assertive. In private, Ed calls this Janica's teacher mode. She looks cute, although maybe she herself thinks she looks dignified. Ed decided to just follow her game. He then said that all this is thanks to having such a great teacher, although Janica tried to hide it, but it was obvious that she was very happy when she heard his praise. Janica then explained, normally, in order to make a contract with an intermediate level spirit, a spirit sorcerer has to travel around across mountains and valleys to find a spirit with a matching frequency. Just because you have enough magic doesn't mean you can make a contract randomly. First, the thing that needs to be done is to find a spirit with a magical flow that suits you. Hearing that, Ed felt that it sounded more complicated than when he made a contract with Marilda. Janica then asked him, you are naturally suited to the fire and wind elements, right? She then suggested, if you make a new contract, you should avoid spirits with the wind and fire elements. Ed also agreed with that. He knew why Janica suggested that. Making a contract with a spirit that has the same elemental attributes does make controlling it easier, but it also limits the flexibility in handling various situations. Just like Janica, it's more ideal if he uses as many elements as possible, even if he doesn't reach her level. While exhaling, Ed then asked, finding one intermediate level spirit won't be easy, right? Janica smiled slightly at that. She then said, that's the reason why spirit sorcerers often consider their intermediate level spirit contract as destiny itself. There is one route where we become spirit sorcerers in Failed Swordsman, Sylvania. That route evokes the romance of wandering in the wild, bonding with spirits encountered in the forests and rivers as if it was destined. As Ed closed his eyes while focusing himself, Janica then said to him, resonance first, focus your magic on your eyes. After doing what Janica said, Ed then opened both eyes. The cabin that had previously looked deserted, now it looks very crowded in his eyes with various creatures standing there. All these creatures are intermediate level spirits. With a big smile, Janica said that she had chosen the best intermediate level spirit for him. Ed was quite surprised to see that. He then asked her, isn't carrying this many spirits tiring? He also felt that this was really great. Hearing that, Janica just said, if they follow me willingly, why would I drive them away? Besides, I have already discussed this with the spirits. Although Ed felt that it was really great, but he felt a little hesitant, not giving him a chance to speak further. Janica then told him to choose one. Hearing that, Ed then turned his head towards the intermediate spirits. The spirits seemed to be standing neatly as if expecting to be chosen by him. Ed was quite confused when he saw that. After that, one of the spirits then introduced himself. He was an intermediate spirit. Hello. He then described himself to him. The introduction continued until the next spirits. In the middle of their introduction, Mug was seen pondering at this time. Seeing that, Ed felt that he was being quite arrogant for the size of a low spirit, but still, Ed felt it was strange to choose a spirit like this. Realizing that, Janica then sadly asked, does it feel strange? Am I pushing too hard? Should we continue later? Hearing that, Ed then tried to refute it. Mug then whispered to him and asked him to move on to the next spirit. Ed actually felt uncomfortable at the moment, because this didn't seem like a romantic moment of a fated meeting as he imagined. He wondered, is this really okay? At another place, the new student admission ceremony was about to start at this time. the students were seen already gathered at the meeting place. Although this was a meaningful event for the new students, the third-year top-ranked student Janica Faylover could not attend due to personal reasons. It was of course because she was now busy teaching Ed spirit magic. Besides Janica, there was also the second-year top-ranked student Lucy Merrill who could not attend due to personal reasons. It was actually because she was taking a nap at this time. The academy staff looked anxious when they heard the news. They were worried that it would be a disappointing event due to their absence, but those worries became insignificant, thanks to the presence of one of the most important figures in Sylvania, Princess Phinia. She was seen playing chess at the moment, while the students around her looked nervous at the moment. No matter how often the Sylvania Academy promoted the egalitarian culture, facing the royal bloodline still intimidated them. Both commoners and nobles were very careful when being around her. In the end, there was only one person at the admission ceremony who dared to speak directly to her. He was also the opponent of her current chess game. That person seemed to be quite good at chess because he managed to checkmate her. He was Wade, a loyal servant of the royal family and heir to one of the three great swordsmanship families, the Kellamore family, and also a first-year top-ranked student. Phinia then praised his game. While showing the pawn, Wade then said, "You started hesitating. After sacrificing a soldier, if you stay committed to the end, I won't be able to win." Hearing that, Phinia then asked him not to give political lessons on chess. That was the job of the royal tutor. Real life was a little different. Hearing that, Wade felt like she had experienced a lot in Sylvania. Phinia said that she had just become a little more self-aware. At first she thought that she was better than anyone when it came to reading people, but she began to think that maybe it was like that. Hearing that, Wade then said, "People say that in Sylvania, you have to learn if you are wrong." Phinia was a little surprised to hear that. Ostracizing Ed Roth Taylor had been a bit of a regret for Phinia all along, but with that, he saved Janica, made a cabin in the wild forest, and as time went on, his existence grew. There was even a rumor that said that he was highly exalted among the first-year students. His respectable and exemplary life in the academy only strengthened his existence. It also strengthened her guilt. That was what Phinia felt regarding Ed. After hearing Wade's words, Phinia learned a lesson. She realized that she might be wrong, and it wasn't just about this, but if she kept turning around like a child without learning anything, nothing would get done. No matter how high your status was, in this Sylvania Academy, learning was mandatory. Phinia seemed to have an epiphany at the moment. With a confident smile that filled her face, Phinia then said to him, "Thanks to you, I managed to clear my head." She then invited him to a chess match once again. Phinia thought, no matter what, I can't keep running away from my mistakes forever, right? She realized that it was a stupid thing. She had to finish everything. She estimated that it would probably take about 4 days. After that, she would head to Ed's cabin in the northern forest. She wanted the two of them to sit by the campfire, put everything aside, and just talk. This felt like the explanation she had been waiting for, as if the delayed spring had finally come to her. But, when Phinia was about to move her pawn, she suddenly accidentally dropped it. It foreshadowed the bad news she would get soon. On the morning of the third day, news came of Ed Roth Taylor's death.